This president right here, as you look out upon this sea of Black Americans, this president hears you. This president cares for you. Don't let anyone tell you that this president right here, Donald Trump, is not for Black America, because he is. I'm standing here today as a testament to how he feels about Black Americans. There has never been a position like this. I don't know if there ever will be before, but I worked with him in his first term, and I'm proud to now officially have the title to make it happen.
If you look at the income that is generated within the Black community in the United States of America, it is perhaps larger than the GDP of the entire sub-Saharan Africa combined. If those monies were to be directed in a deliberate way in the continent of Africa, then the role of the diaspora would be monumental. The foreign direct investment that we are talking about would be given.
We have to consider the situation that Black peoples of the world are in currently and have been for the last 400 or 500 years, that of slavery. And the biggest slave master perpetrator nation is the United States of America. So over the years, over the centuries, over the decades, we see that they are trying to make amends for the worst Holocaust in human history, and declaring February the shortest month in the year, the most coldest month in the year in the United States as Black History Month, is just part of their process of trying to make amends, or appearing to be making amends. So it's the slave master's way of trying to say, you know, he recognizes Black people and so on and so forth. So I simply see it as that. I don't put too much emphasis on it. Our Black history is for us to tell our story, not wait for the slave master to say, okay, you have permission to use the shortest month, coldest month in the year to express your Black history. They say slavery is abolished, but slavery is still in action. Very much so. We are economic slaves. So they've removed the chains, but we're still in slavery. So the slave master declaring a month is, of course, nothing but, you know, where he's trying to appear that he's a human being, that he's a civilized person, and that he's trying to amend the worst Holocaust in human history.
The United States of America, ladies and gentlemen, is actually facing scrutiny over Black History Month. A growing number of voices suggest that this commemoration or celebration may not actually reflect the true history of African Muslim people. Ladies and gentlemen, guess what? Ras Wolde Selassie of the Ethiopian World Federation spoke with clarity and, of course, conviction. He said, and I quote, "Black History Month is a commemoration established by those who committed their worst atrocities in human history to pretend they are giving recognition to Black people." Quotation close. Ladies and gentlemen, this particular statement challenges the traditional narrative and, of course, demands attention. The implications are actually wider than a single month. They point to a history that has often been controlled by others.
So many decades have passed and still we laugh, beat our chest with pride, our self-esteem so high. They tried to play with our intelligence, killed our intellects, told us we were a dark continent, a group of people so far from greatness. Time and time again they tried to break us, torturing our heroes, getting them locked up, pointing guns to our heads, trying to silence us, and when we rebelled, they pulled the triggers. Piercing bullets into our chests, they thought they killed us. But you can't kill a demigod. You can't stop us from passing this dynasty down to the young ones. These heroic and legendary stories must go on. They tampered with our story, making us to tell our children their story, calling it his story. But we can never forget, because we are the makers and writers of our story, so we must tell.
Ras Wolde Selassie urges a proactive approach. He explained again, and I actually quote, "If they declare it as a Black History Month, then let us utilize it to the best of our ability. But that shouldn't stop us from celebrating our history every day of the year." Quotation close. The message is actually clear. Empowerment comes not from permission, but from initiative. Communities should actually honor their own history daily. Celebrating once a year cannot actually replace consistent acknowledgement and, of course, education. The perspective invites reflection on how history is actually recognized and, of course, who controls it was not telling. The discussion extends to the very foundations of civilization, ladies and gentlemen. He said, again, and I quote, "Civilization began in the Horn of Africa, yet Black people have been relegated to the very bottom." Quotation close. Ras Wolde Selassie noted this. Now, history shows remarkable achievements or milestones, ladies and gentlemen, originating in Africa, yet contemporary narratives often obscure the fact. The passing continues in education, media, and, of course, policy. Awareness of these dynamics is actually the first step toward change or transformation. As the story unfolds, deeper connections between history, power, and, of course, present-day influence emerge or appear. At the same time, economic power within the global Black community highlights another layer. Professor PLO Lumumba, ladies and gentlemen, explained that, and I quote, "The income that is actually generated within the Black community in the United States of America is larger than the GDP of the entire sub-Saharan African combined." Quotation close. This particular statement introduced the concept of financial strength in the diaspora. It emphasizes the potential coordinated effort between Africa and, of course, its diaspora to influence global systems. The implications are very significant for investment, development, and, of course, collaboration. The combination of historical recognition and, of course, economic power forms a complex story or narrative. Ras Wolde Selassie and, of course, Professor Lumumba, each highlights tools, opportunities, and, of course, the responsibilities tied to them. Observers are actually called to consider both the cultural and, of course, financial dimensions of empowerment. As this particular story develops, it will actually explore how history, narrative control, and, of course, economic influence intersect to shape Africa's future. Now, ladies and gentlemen, before we actually go deeper into this with you, please, if you're actually signing into this particular community for the first time, this happens to be a Pan-African community where we share African-related developments with you every single day. So please make sure that again to give us your support so that we can actually keep doing this with you every single day by liking this particular video, and most especially subscribe and turn on the notification bell so that we can actually stay updated always. The story deepens as we explore Africa's role in reclaiming its history. Ras Wolde Selassie stressed the need for focus. He said, in a quote again, ladies and gentlemen, "We shouldn't get distracted in these semantics. We must keep our eye on the prize or reward, which is our total emancipation and freedom." Quotation close. This is actually not only a cultural issue, but a strategic one. Communities across the world, ladies and gentlemen, face the challenge of preserving identity whilst navigating systems established by others. The pursuit of emancipation or freedom includes political influence, economic strength, and, of course, education. Small steps today lay the foundation for a broader transformation tomorrow. Historical suppression is actually compounded by the disparity in economic. Professor Lumumba, highlighted the scale of Black diaspora income in the US, or America, describing it as a larger than the GDP of the entire sub-Saharan Africa combined. This financial reality, ladies and gentlemen, creates potential for partnership and, of course, investment. By connecting resources, knowledge, and, of course, initiatives, the diaspora and, of course, Africa can actually, drive innovation, infrastructure, and, of course, social programs. It demonstrates that influence does not actually rest only on politics or culture, but also on economic capacity. The story moves to narrative control. Ras Wolde Selassie offered a vivid metaphor in a quote: "The hunter of the lion is telling his story, but once the lion is free and in power again, we will tell our own story. So what we should be focusing on is regaining our power." Quotation close. This metaphor reflects the struggle for historical agency. Power is not only about wealth or status; it is also about the ability to define one's own history. When African communities regain control of their narrative, they can actually ensure their achievements and challenges are accurately represented. The combination of history and, of course, wealth illustrates a path forward. Africa possesses resources, talent, and innovation potential. The diaspora holds financial power, networks, and, of course, influence. Together, the two can actually form a partnership capable of reshaping development and, of course, global representation. Lessons emerge on the importance of strategic action, unity, and, of course, consistent storytelling. An unexpected shift emerges or appears. The financial strength of the diaspora is not actually widely leveraged for African development. Professor Lumumba called this momentum, highlighting its potential. He argued that coordinated action could actually match or exceed the scale of national initiatives. The insight reframes the discussion. Africa's empowerment depends not only on local policy but also on global connections.